1,000 years of war. Empires rise, gods meddle, and mortals are left to crawl through the ashes. Welcome to the world of the Malazan Empire, a realm where soldiers battle not only armies, but ancient powers that have forgotten mercy. In Steven Erikson's Gardens of the Moon, the first book of the Malazan Book of the Fallen, nothing is simple. Heroes are assassins, gods walk unseen among the living, and the fate of empires can hinge on a single coin toss from the twin gods of chance. Today, we dive deep into the chaos, from the haunted streets of Darujhistan to the shadowed spires of Moon's spawn. This is a story of war, magic, betrayal, and endurance in a world where no one is safe, not even the gods. Part 1. The Empire and the Shadow of War. The novel opens in the aftermath of conquest and ruin, a tone that defines the entire Malazan Book of the Fallen. Years before the main events, we meet Ganoes Paran, a noble-born boy from Unta who dreams of glory in the service of the Malazan Empire. As a child, he witnesses a company of hardened soldiers from the Bridgeburners, veterans of the Empire's relentless conquests, marching through town. Among them are Whiskeyjack, their pragmatic leader, and Tattersail, a powerful mage. Young Paran is awed. To him, they are heroes of empire and legend. But when he mentions this to Whiskeyjack, the soldier's weary response, that there are no heroes in war, becomes a haunting truth that will echo through Paran's journey. Years later, the story leaps forward to the Malazan campaign on the continent of Genabakis, where the empire wages a brutal, decade-long war against the free cities and the mysterious Tiste Andi, led by Anomander Rake, the Lord of Moon's spawn. The empire is ruled by the Empress Malazan, formerly the assassin Surly, who came to power after orchestrating the assassination of the previous emperor, Kelenved, and his companion Dancer. Paran has grown up and joined the army. Intelligent, proud, and idealistic, he has no idea of the political games surrounding him. In Pale, he's assigned to High-Fist Dujek One-Arm's army, where he meets the legendary Bridgeburners again, now an exhausted, cynical, and cursed unit. The Bridgeburners' ranks have been decimated over years of dangerous missions, their loyalty to the old emperor making them suspect under Lasin's rule. The novel begins amid the siege of Pale, one of the most devastating battles in the empire's history. The Malazan forces, led by Dujek, lay siege to the city defended by Anomander Rake and his Tiste Andi, ancient, immortal warriors who wield sorcery from the darkness of the Warren of Darkness, Kurald Galen. Above Pale floats Moon's spawn, a colossal flying fortress that blots out the sun, from which Rake and his mages unleash destruction upon the Malazan army. The Malazans employ mages of the Claw and high mages to counter this. Among them is Tattersail, one of the last surviving sorceresses of Dujek's cadre. She works alongside Acheronus, Belurden Skullcrusher, and others, channeling the power of the Warrens, parallel dimensions of magic. When the battle begins, the sorcery unleashed is cataclysmic. Warrens clash, cities crumble, and firestorms sweep across Pale. Thousands die in moments. Despite this devastation, the Malazans manage to breach the city's walls, forcing Rake to withdraw Moon's spawn. The Empire claims victory, but it is a hollow one. Tattersail and other survivors realize something is deeply wrong. The entire cadre of Malazan mages assigned to the siege has been wiped out, except for her and Belurden. Many suspect the Empire's own agents, not the enemy, caused this slaughter. The truth emerges gradually. Empress Lasin and her Claw assassins are purging the army of anyone still loyal to the old emperor. The Bridgeburners, Dujek, and Tattersail all fall under suspicion. The war against Pale, it seems, has been used as cover for an internal cleansing. The retreat of Anomander Rake marks the introduction of one of the series' most enigmatic figures. Rake, the son of darkness, is the immortal leader of the Tiste Andi, an ancient race of shadow-dwellers from another world. He wields Dragnapur, a sentient sword that traps the souls of those it kills into an endless realm of torment, dragging a cosmic wagon through darkness. From his fortress Moon's Spawn, Rake surveys the battlefield with cold disdain. To him, the mortals below are fleeting, their wars meaningless, yet he is drawn into their conflict because of the growing power of the Malazan Empire and the Ascendants. Mortal beings elevated to godlike status, who manipulate events. Rake's alliance with the city of Darujhistan, the last free city on Ganoes, will become central later in the novel. For now, he withdraws his forces, waiting to see how the Malazan invasion will unfold. After the fall of Pale, the Bridgeburners, led by Whiskeyjack, with key members like Kalam Mekar, Quick Ben, Hedge, and Fiddler, are reassigned by the Empire to the city of Darujhistan, ostensibly to prepare for its capture. However, they realize that their orders are likely a death sentence. Lassine's claw agents, led by Topper and Lorne, are systematically eliminating old loyalists. The Bridgeburners are being sent to their deaths by degrees. Amid this, Captain Paran is appointed as the Bridgeburners' new commanding officer, a decision made by the Claw to keep tabs on them. His arrival is met with suspicion and hostility. Whiskeyjack's soldiers have little faith in noble-born officers. Paran's first encounter with the Bridgeburners reveals the group's complexity. Soldiers, saboteurs, and survivors bound by loyalty to one another but disillusioned by empire. His fate becomes entwined with theirs, and with the schemes of the gods themselves. Meanwhile, Tattersail returns to her quarters after the siege, haunted by visions. She consults the Deck of Dragons, a mystical tarot-like artifact used to divine the movements of the Ascendants. The reading shows unprecedented activity. Multiple gods are maneuvering in the mortal world. We see names that will recur throughout the series: Opon, the twin gods of chance; Shadow Throne, Anomander Rake, Hairlock, and more. The reading signals a convergence, a rare and catastrophic alignment where the paths of mortals, gods, and ascendants collide. Tattersail senses that something vast and dangerous has begun, and that she, Whiskeyjack, and the Bridgeburners are caught in its wake. Back in the imperial capital, the Empress's agents move to secure their power. Adjunct Lorne, a high-ranking imperial operative bound to the Empress, is given a secret mission. She is to travel to Ganoes and release an ancient power buried deep beneath the continent. She is accompanied by a claw assassin, Topper, and by the Talan Imas, an undead warrior race who once conquered the world in service of a godly war. Lorne's mission, shrouded in secrecy, involves an artifact known as the Finist, which contains the essence of Jagat Tyrant Raest, an ancient sorcerer imprisoned millennia ago. The Empress intends to unleash Raest near Darujhistan, ensuring chaos that will weaken the free city and clear the way for conquest. At the same time, the Empress's manipulations provoke divine interest. The twin gods of chance, Opon, decide to intervene in the mortal game by choosing a pawn, none other than Ganoes Paran. As Part 1 closes, fate begins to weave its strands together. Paran, now the Bridgeburners' captain, finds himself attacked and nearly killed by the assassin Sari, a seemingly innocent young recruit possessed by Cotillion, the Rope, an ancient assassin god allied with Shadow Throne, the ruler of the Warren of Shadow. Paran dies, But Opon, unwilling to lose their chosen mortal peace, intervene to save him, resurrecting him as their agent of chaos. When Paran awakens, he is changed, a man balanced precariously between the meddling of gods. Unbeknownst to him, the very forces that shape worlds are watching, and the war for Genabakis is only a small part of a cosmic struggle among ascendants and gods. By the end of Part 1, Erikson has established the novel's key motifs: the emptiness of imperial conquest, as seen through Whiskeyjack and Dujek's disillusionment, the intrusion of gods into mortal affairs, with the deck of dragons as the map of divine war, the blurred line between heroism and destruction, embodied by both Rake and the Bridgeburners, and the illusion of control. Every mortal is a pawn in games played by beings beyond comprehension. The pieces are set. The Malazan Empire eyes Darujhistan, the last jewel on Genabakis. The Bridgeburners march toward their fated city. The gods shuffle their cards, and above it all, Moon's spawn glides across the sky like a shadow of doom. Part 2. Shadows over Darujhistan. After the fall of Pale, Dujek One-Arm's battered host regroups. His army has been declared outlaw by the Empress, another of her purges meant to cut off generals too loyal to the old regime. So Dujek, Whiskeyjack, and their veterans must fight on two fronts: against the free cities and against their own empire. Officially, they prepare to move on Darujhistan, the richest and last independent city on Genabakis. Secretly, they are already planning rebellion and survival. Whiskeyjack and the Bridgeburners are ordered to infiltrate Darujhistan ahead of the army and destabilize it from within, plant agents, map defenses, and arrange the assassination of key officials. It's an impossible mission, perhaps deliberately so. Everyone suspects Laucine wants them dead. Among their number are Quick Ben, the sly mage with a dozen hidden pasts; Kalam, the assassin whose knives whisper of the old claw; Fiddler and Hedge, the sappers who joke to hide trauma; and Sari, the quiet girl whose expression never changes, because she is still half possessed by Cotillion, the god of assassins. Captain Ganoes Paran, still recovering from his near-fatal encounter with Sari Cotillion, begins to perceive the invisible hands manipulating his fate. His resurrection by Opon, the twin gods of chance, has left him their unwilling instrument. Coincidences surround him, doors open or close at the oddest times, and every decision seems touched by fortune's whim. Paran's pride and idealism crumble. He becomes both skeptical and wary, realizing he's a piece on a divine board he cannot see. While traveling with the Bridgeburners toward Darujhistan, Paran is ambushed again, this time by a claw agent. Opon intervenes through a literal coin toss, and the assassin dies instead. Paran begins to understand the terrifying implication. The twins are capricious. Their help is a curse disguised as luck. Meanwhile, Tattersail and Bellerdan Skullcrusher journey with the remnants of Dujek's host. They carry the remains of Hairlock, a mage who attempted to escape death by transferring his soul into a wooden puppet, a grotesque mockery of life. Hairlock's madness grows as he seeks communion with Shadowthrone, ruler of the Warren of Shadow. Through Hairlock's plotting, Tattersail glimpses the growing convergence of gods around them. During this trek, Tattersail and Paran briefly meet and are drawn to one another, a fragile spark of warmth amid war. Their connection will soon become tragic. As the army moves south, Hairlock manipulates magic recklessly, drawing divine attention. In a confrontation, Quick Ben and Whiskeyjack destroy the puppet, severing Shadowthrone's conduit. But the backlash of power touches Tattersail. She foresees her own imminent death and uses her knowledge of the Warrens to reincarnate herself. When she is slain, her soul will fuse with that of a newborn child conceived by Belurden. When the moment comes, an assault by Imperial mages, Belurden is killed, and Tattersail's essence passes into the infant. The newborn, known later as Silverfox, becomes the vessel for Tattersail's reborn spirit and something far older. This act of rebirth ties her fate to the ancient undead race known as the Talan Imas and sets up future novels. Far to the west, Adjunct Lorne continues her secret mission for Empress Lysine. With her travels the undead warrior tool, a Talan Imas, a creature tens of thousands of years old, bound to the sorcery of the First Empire. Lorne initially views Tool as a weapon. Over time, she begins to see the tragedy behind his undead calm. The Imas destroyed their own humanity to gain immortality in a war against the Jaghut. And Tool's long existence has stripped him of everything but duty. Their goal is to locate and release Ryest, a Jaghut tyrant imprisoned since the dawn of history. The Empress believes that unleashing him will devastate Darujhistan, allowing the Malazan army to conquer the ruins. Tool warns that such power cannot be controlled, but Lorne persists, driven by loyalty and fear of failure. As they near the barrow where Ryest is entombed, the ground itself shudders, the ancient seals weakening. The narrative shifts to Darujhistan, the glittering jewel of Genabakis, famous for its blue-flamed gas lamps and secretive politics. Here, a new cast joins the tapestry. Krupa, a rotund, loquacious dreamer whose babbling hides profound cunning. Crokus Younghand, a youthful thief from the rooftops of the city. Ralik Nom, a professional assassin belonging to the Guild of Assassins, locked in a vendetta with Turban Orr, a corrupt councilman. Murillo and Call, Krupa's friends and fellow schemers, who straddle the line between rogues and heroes, and the mysterious Lady Simtal, around whom much of the city's intrigue swirls. Through their eyes, we see a city of contrasts, beauty and decadence, nobles and thieves, magic and murder. The Council of 12, Darujhistan's ruling body, squabbles over alliances while the shadow of the Malazan Empire looms to the north. Internal corruption leaves the city ripe for invasion. Krupa, ever the jester, secretly communicates with powers beyond understanding. In dreams, he communes with Anomander Rake, whose fortress Moon's Spawn now hovers above the countryside. Krupa senses a convergence approaching, a collision of mortals, gods, and ascendants centered on Darujhistan. One night, while climbing across rooftops, the thief Crokus steals a jeweled pendant from Chalice Darl, a noblewoman. His theft seems trivial, until chance intervenes. A coin, heavy with unseen power, drops from the heavens and strikes his head. It is the coin of Opon, the same divine token that links Paran to the twins of chance. Instantly, Crokus becomes another of Opon's pawns. From that moment, luck clings to him. Guards miss him by inches. Every gamble turns in his favor. Unaware of his role, Crokus begins a slow moral awakening, questioning his thievery and idealizing Chalice as a symbol of something pure. His path will later intertwine with the Bridgeburners and Rake's forces, uniting the city's thieves with the Empire's soldiers in unexpected ways. Back in the wilderness, Anomander Rake convenes with his allies and servants, the Tiste Andi, the mage Silana, and the demon Kaladin Brood, a warlord opposing the Malazans. Though nominally enemies, Rake's concern transcends mortal politics. He senses the awakening of ancient powers, the tyrant rest stirring beneath the earth, the meddling of gods like Shadow Throne, Apon, and the Lord of Death Hood, and the re-emergence of the Talan Imas. His mission is to prevent catastrophe, not to win a war. Rake's relationship with mortals is complex. He aids Darujhistan, yet remains detached, viewing their struggles as echoes of long-forgotten wars. His companion, the sorceress Nightchill, is later murdered under mysterious circumstances, another sign that divine agents are moving within mortal ranks. Whiskeyjack's Bridgeburners, having reached Darujhistan, establish contacts with local underworld figures, chiefly Krupa and Ralik Nam. The soldiers pose as mercenaries, gathering intelligence while Quick Ben and Kalam attempt to trace the presence of other warrens. Both sense the encroachment of Shadow Throne's magic. Portals to the Warren of Shadow flicker across the city's outskirts. Quick Ben and Kalam also discover that Sari is not merely possessed, but an active conduit for Cotillion. Yet they choose not to kill her. Instead, Quick Ben decides to gamble, believing that the rope's presence may one day turn against Shadow Throne himself. As the Bridgeburners, Krupa's Circle, Lorne and Tool, and Rake's Andy all move toward Darujhistan, the threads tighten. Each faction pursues its own goal: empire, survival, knowledge, or redemption. But all are being drawn into a single convergence, the magical nexus foreseen by Tattersail's deck of dragons. By the end of Part 2, the Bridgeburners are embedded in the city, planning sabotage. Paran drifts between loyalty and disillusionment, unknowingly still tied to Opon's coin. Lorne nears the tyrant's barrow, preparing to unleash chaos. Anomander Rake watches from Moon's spawn, wary of the gathering storm. And in Darujhistan's alleys, Crokus, blessed by luck, crosses paths with destiny. The gods smile, some in amusement, others in hunger. The city of blue flame sleeps, unaware that every candle, every whispered plot, every toss of a coin is already part of a divine game whose stakes reach beyond worlds. Part 3, Gods, Shadows, and Moon's Spawn. High above the plains of Genabakis floats Moon's Spawn, a fortress of black basalt that defies all mortal comprehension. Within its depths dwell the Tiste Andi, an ancient race from another realm of darkness, immortal, powerful, and weary of existence. Their lord, Anomander Rake, is both feared and revered, a warrior mage whose soul is bound to the sword Dragnapur, a weapon that imprisons the souls of its slain victims, dragging them into eternal servitude within its shadowed realm. Rake is no ordinary antagonist. Though he commands terrifying magic and the allegiance of dragons and demons, he is driven less by conquest than by a grim sense of balance. To him, the mortal war between Malazan and free cities is a sideshow. The real danger lies in the awakening of ancient powers, the kind that could end civilizations. From Moon's spawn, Rake observes Dujek's outlawed army, Lorne's movements, and the growing agitation beneath the earth. His allies, including the formidable Silana, a dragon bound to his will, and Kaladin Brood, a warlord wielding a hammer said to rival the god's own, sense it too. The Jaghut tyrant Raist stirs. If released, his wrath could annihilate not just Darujhistan, but all of Genabakis. As the story deepens, we learn more about the Warrens, the magical realms through which mages channel power. Each Warren corresponds to an element, force, or aspect of existence: shadow, Thyr, light, Makra, mind, Daynul, healing, and others. But beyond these are deeper paths, tied to elder races and gods. The Tiste Andi draw upon Kurald Galayan, the Warren of Darkness, from which their entire race originates. Quick Ben, whose power and knowledge far exceed those of an ordinary army mage, navigates these realms with astonishing skill. He hides 7 warrens within him, a feat thought impossible for humans, marking him as something far beyond a mere soldier. His mastery lets him sense when gods interfere, a vital edge as divine powers begin manipulating events around Darujhistan. Meanwhile, Shadow Throne, ruler of the Warren of Shadow, Mayanas, and his companion Cotillion, the Rope, watch from their dimension. Their motives are obscure. They seek to increase their influence among mortals, but their moves are chaotic, opportunistic. They have agents on both sides. Sorry, of course, but also the Hound of Shadow, monstrous beasts that obey Cotillion's commands. Far from the city, Adjunct Lorne and the Talan Imas Tool finally locate the burial site of the Jaghut tyrant Rayest, a being from the ancient age when Jaghut sorcerers ruled the world through ice and terror. Tool warns that unsealing Rayest's barrow could bring devastation beyond imagining. Lorne hesitates, her loyalty to the Empress warring with her conscience. Through her travels, Lorne has come to respect Tool's stoicism and sadness. The undead warrior reveals fragments of his people's history, the Imas ritual of Tellin, which made them immortal servants of the First Empire in their eternal war against the Jaghut. His existence is agony without end, a constant march through millennia of killing. When Lorne finally opens the barrow, the seal fractures catastrophically. The power of Rayest explodes outward, shattering wards laid tens of thousands of years ago. Though his body remains imprisoned underground, his spirit escapes, inhabiting a succession of hosts as it searches for a vessel strong enough to contain his full essence. The first signs of his presence, sudden deaths, warped magic, and earth trembling, spread across the countryside like an omen. Tool departs to warn Anomander Rake, while Lorne realizes too late that she has unleashed something her Empress cannot control. In Darujhistan, Whiskeyjack and his squad consolidate their cover identities. Fiddler and Hedge mingle with the city's underworld, smuggling Maranth munitions, explosive weapons made by the mysterious Maranth people, whose alliance with the Empire is tenuous. Kalam and Quick Ben, working in secret, try to learn whether Rake plans to defend or destroy the city. Quick Ben, through risky magical probing, makes contact with forces in the Warren of Shadow, and briefly with Shadow Throne himself. This is one of Erikson's most cryptic sequences. Quick Ben uses a labyrinthine network of warrens to conceal his identity, forcing the god into a stalemate. The exchange confirms that the gods are watching Darujhistan closely. A convergence is imminent. Meanwhile, Sauri's possession begins to crack. Cotillion's hold weakens under the pressure of human emotion and the conflicting power of Opon, whose coin still resonates nearby through Crokus and Paran. The assassin's girl begins to regain fragments of her true self, Apsalar, horrified by memories of murder she cannot undo. Within Darujhistan, Crokus Younghand finds himself drawn deeper into the city's politics. His theft of Chalice Darl's pendant and his strange new luck make him the talk of the Thieves' Guild. Krupa, always watching, realizes that divine forces are using Crokus as a pawn, yet he remains calm, convinced that destiny itself plays to his design. Krupa's dreams act as a narrative lens for the god's machinations. Within his subconscious, he communicates with Dragnapur's realm, a place of chained souls dragging a black wagon toward an unknowable gate. These dreams hint that Rake, Shadow Throne, and even Hood, the god of death, are all tied together in an ancient, cyclical struggle. At the same time, Ralik Nom and Murillo engage in their own vendettas against corrupt council members like Turban Orr, setting the stage for Darujhistan's political chaos. These mortal intrigues, though small compared to the divine, will prove critical once all powers converge. Rake, aware that the Jagat tyrant's soul has escaped, faces a decision. He could destroy Raist outright, but doing so would unleash catastrophic magical backlash. Instead, he decides to contain the tyrant, waiting for the right moment to strike. His alliance with Caladan Brood is uneasy. Brood's enchanted hammer is said to be capable of breaking the world if ever used in full. The two ancient beings agree to delay action until they can understand how the gods are meddling. Rake also suspects that Shadow Throne is manipulating mortals in Darujhistan for his own amusement. The presence of the Hounds of Shadow near the city confirms this. Still, Rake feels a growing weariness. Having lived since before human civilization, he sees history repeating itself endlessly. Ambition, greed, conquest, ruin. His compassion for mortals like Krupa and Crokus stems from this melancholy awareness. All across Genabakis, powers stir toward a single point: Darujhistan. The Bridgeburners prepare their sabotage and assassination plans. Paran, caught between loyalty and the influence of Opon, feels fate pulling him toward the city. Lorne, realizing the disaster she's unleashed, races toward Darujhistan in a desperate bid to kill Raist before he can fully manifest. Anomander Rake descends from Moon's spawn, ready to confront the ancient threat. And Shadow Throne moves his pieces, the hounds, and subtle manipulations of luck and chance, to ensure that chaos reigns. Magic becomes unstable, the warrens flicker unpredictably, and every sorcerer senses that the barrier between worlds is thinning. The gods themselves are drawing near, as Krupa puts it in one of his prophetic dream ramblings. The stage is set, my friends. The actors stumble on, unaware that their strings are pulled by hands unseen. Yet even the gods, methinks, know not who writes the play. By the close of Part 3, Lorne and Tool have unleashed forces older than history. Anomander Rake and Caladan Brood prepare for a confrontation that may shatter empires. Quick Ben's secret knowledge hints that the gods' war is but a shadow of something older, an elder conflict, reaching back to the birth of magic itself. Crokus and Apsilar, formerly sorry, inch toward awareness of their divine entanglements. Paran, freed from immediate control, begins to understand his purpose as Opon's tool, perhaps to restore balance amid chaos. Darujhistan, city of blue flame, glows quietly under the stars, its council oblivious to the coming storm. In the heavens above, Moon's spawn drifts closer, its basalt spires silhouetted against a rising red moon. The gods are watching, the mortals are moving. The convergence is about to begin. The Part 4. The convergence of power. Deep beneath the earth, the spirit of the Jaghut tyrant. Rest grows stronger. Freed by Lorne's actions, it seizes control of a succession of hosts. First an unfortunate peasant, then a more powerful one, absorbing their flesh and vitality until it can begin to rebuild its true body. As it travels toward Darujhistan, it leaves behind trails of ice and death, a sign of its ancient glacial sorcery. Raist's memories slowly return. He recalls his imprisonment by the Talan Emas during the age when Jagat ruled the world. In his mind burns not merely hatred, but a deep, cold contempt for all other races. He means not simply to destroy Darujhistan, but to reclaim dominion over the mortal realm itself. Meanwhile, Tool, recognizing the danger, departs from Lorne to warn Anomander Rake. Lorne, now alone, presses on toward Darujhistan, determined to end what she began, even if it costs her life. In Darujhistan, the Bridgeburners face their own crisis. Their orders, delivered long ago from the Empress, are to destabilize the city in preparation for conquest. But Whiskeyjack has lost faith in Lacine's motives. He suspects that their mission is a cover to have them conveniently killed, allowing her to purge Dujek's veterans while claiming the conquest as her own. Despite his doubts, Whiskeyjack's loyalty to his comrades keeps him moving forward. The Bridgeburners' plan involves infiltrating the city's estates and setting explosive Moranth munitions in key areas to be detonated at the signal of invasion. Quick Ben and Kalam handle coordination, while Fiddler and Hedge prepare the charges. Their secret ally, Krupa, acts as a broker in the city's underworld, keeping them informed of the council's infighting and of Crokus Younghand's encounters with strange luck. Krupa's dreamy insights make him seem harmless, but in truth, he understands more than anyone that gods and mortals are all being drawn to a single catastrophic intersection. Crokus, still driven by his infatuation with Chalice Darlail, undertakes a dangerous mission to return her stolen pendant, a symbolic act of repentance. His path crosses with Apsalar, the girl formerly possessed by Cotillion, now freed but deeply traumatized. Together they encounter Ralik Nom, the assassin, and Murillo, Krupa's friend. Realizing that the Bridgeburners are in the city and that sorcery is on the rise, the group begins to align. Through Krupa's guidance, they come to understand that something vast and ancient, something far beyond the Empire's petty politics, is moving toward Darujhistan. Apsalar, still touched by Cotillion's essence, senses the arrival of the Hounds of Shadow, the monstrous beasts that serve the god of assassins. Their presence in the mortal realm means only one thing: Shadow Throne himself is near. Anomander Rake and his fortress Moon Spawn move into position above Darujhistan, casting an immense shadow over the city. The sight throws the council into panic. Some nobles call for negotiation, others for war. Rake meets with his old ally Kaladin Brood, the warlord who commands human armies against the Malazans. Brood wields a weapon of immense power, the Hammer of Burn, said to possess the strength to shatter the world if struck in anger. The two discuss their options. Brood is weary of endless war, but Rake warns that the convergence, a collision of gods, warrens, and ascendants, is now inevitable. They decide to protect Darujhistan rather than destroy it, hoping to minimize mortal casualties when the divine forces collide. Brood's army begins to maneuver northward, while Rake readies his sorcerers aboard Moon's Spawn for battle. As tensions rise, Kalam and Quick Ben learn that an assassination plot against Anomander Rake is being arranged through the city's underworld. The plot originates from within the Malazan Empire itself, a desperate bid to remove Rake before he can interfere with the invasion. Quick Ben and Kalam act independently, using their own knowledge of the Warrens to try to intercept the assassins. They discover that one of the agents involved is none other than Adjunct Lorne, now entering the city with Tool's warning still echoing in her ears. Before they can act, chaos erupts. The Hounds of Shadow appear in the city, rampaging through the streets. Their sudden materialization causes multiple warrens to collapse or overlap, filling the night with explosions of sorcery. The Bridgeburners are caught in the middle, and for a time it seems all is lost. The convergence begins in full as Raist approaches Darujhistan. Now possessing the reconstituted body of a Jagat lord, he radiates power on a scale unseen in millennia. Every mage, god, and ascendant in the area senses his arrival like a thunderclap. Lorne reaches the city and encounters Crokus, Apsalar, and Krupa's companions. Her mission, to destroy Raist using a Moranth munition, conflicts with her fading faith in the Empire. When she faces the monstrous tyrant in battle, her courage falters, but she manages to wound him briefly. In retaliation, Raist kills her with a gesture, her death marking the final severing of her loyalty to Lacine. The shockwave of Raist's awakening draws the attention of Anomander Rake. He descends with Moon's spawn, engaging Raist directly in an apocalyptic duel of sorcery that lights the night sky. Towers collapse, earth shatters, and the moon's blue fire reflects on the flames consuming Darujhistan's outskirts. Meanwhile, the Bridgeburners, Quick Ben, and Kalam struggle to survive amid collapsing warrens. Whiskeyjack orders his men to abort their mission. Their loyalty is to one another, not the Empress's ambition. They move to protect civilians and regroup with Crokus and the others. The divine forces make their moves. Shadow Throne and Cotillion appear briefly in the mortal world, attempting to manipulate Raist's fate for their amusement. Opon, through Paran and Crokus, influences chance itself to preserve key players. The Lord of Death, Hood, watches from beyond, as countless souls pour into his realm. In the chaos, Apsalar's memories of Cotillion allow her to briefly channel the rope's abilities, saving Crokus from one of the Hounds of Shadow. This act of defiance severs the last remnant of her possession, leaving her free but deeply haunted. Quick Ben, using multiple warrens at once, manages to weaken Raist's defenses, allowing Rake to strike with Dragnapur. The Jaghut tyrant's soul is drawn into the sword's nightmarish realm, bound forever to drag the black wagon within the void. As dawn breaks, Lorne's body is found near the city's edge by Tool, who arrives too late. The Tilani Mas stands silently over her corpse, recognizing in her the tragedy of mortal loyalty. He buries her with care, remarking that though she served a corrupt empire, her death was not in vain. Her failure has paradoxically saved Darujhistan. By releasing Raist early, she forced the gods to intervene before the tyrant could fully mature in strength. The city, though scarred, still stands. When the dust settles, Anomander Rake withdraws Moon's spawn. The Bridgeburners survive but are now truly outlaws, cut off from the empire they once served. Whiskeyjack, Quick Ben, Kalam, Fiddler, and Hedge decide to remain together, forming a new band of free agents, still soldiers, but answerable to no crown. Crokus and Apsalar, changed forever by what they've seen, leave Darujhistan to seek understanding of the gods' world. Krupa, ever the jester, declares the crisis ended and promptly falls asleep, dreaming once more of dragons, gods, and future wars. High above, Rake mourns quietly for the countless dead. His duel with Raist has reminded him that the balance between order and chaos is fragile, and that even immortals must one day face their reckoning. In the aftermath of the convergence, Dujek One-Arm's army, now declared traitorous, begins its long march south, setting the stage for Deadhouse Gates. The Bridgeburners are scattered but alive, their loyalty to Whiskeyjack unwavering. Quick Ben's mastery of the Warrens has drawn the attention of gods, some as allies, others as future enemies. Apsalar remains connected to Cotillion in mysterious ways, hinting at future encounters. Anomander Rake, having captured Raist's soul, returns to his endless vigil over the world's balance. The gods retreat to their realms, amused or frustrated. Mortals bury their dead and rebuild, never fully aware that their survival hinged on the whims of beings older than the stars. Part 5. The balance restored. The city of Darujhistan wakes under a broken dawn. Its skyline is blackened, whole districts reduced to rubble, and its blue gas lamps flicker weakly over the wreckage. But the city still stands. Against impossible odds, an undead Jagat tyrant, a floating fortress, divine interference. Darujhistan remains unconquered. For the mortals who fought beneath the gods' gaze, survival itself feels like defiance. As the dust settles, the surviving factions take stock of what remains. Whiskeyjack and his Bridgeburners limp away from the chaos, battered but alive. They've become legends among the city's residents, whispered of as both saviors and destroyers. To the Empire, however, they are now officially renegades, soldiers who disobeyed orders and turned their backs on the Empress's designs. In the slums, Crokus Younghand, once a petty thief, walks the streets with new eyes. The boy who once stole jewels for sport has seen gods at play and lived. His faith in innocence and in Chalice, the noblewoman he idolized, has burned away. He begins to understand Krupa's riddles, that power, not love or wealth, moves the world. But rather than chase it, Crokus resolves to find something purer, a life not dictated by the cruelty of kings or gods. His journey, however, has only just begun. High above the city, Anomander Rake stands upon the decks of Moon Spawn, surveying the aftermath. His duel with Raest has left him victorious, but victory feels hollow. Within his sword, Dragnapur, the soul of the Jagut tyrant now drags the endless black wagon across the void, chained for eternity alongside countless others. Rake, as wielder, bears the psychic weight of all those trapped souls. Each one whispers despair into his mind, a constant reminder of the cost of power. Rake's immortal followers, the Tiste Andi, tend to their dead and wounded. For beings who have lived for millennia, death has lost its sting, but weariness has not. Rake's lieutenant, Korlat, wonders aloud whether their endless struggle in the mortal realm serves any purpose. Rake answers only that duty endures, even when meaning fades. The Andi withdraw from Darujhistan, returning to the high skies. For now, the balance is restored, but Rake senses that greater storms are brewing in other lands, wars and ascendants yet to rise. His role as guardian of equilibrium is far from over. Far below, on the plains outside the city, the Talan Imas warrior tool stands beside the grave of Adjunct Lorne. He has buried her in silence, leaving only her sword to mark the mound. Though undead, Tool feels something like sorrow, a memory of grief long forgotten by his kind. In Lorne, he saw a reflection of what the Imas once were, mortal, passionate, capable of regret. Tool's task is complete. He has witnessed the awakening and defeat of Raest, one of the greatest Jagat tyrants his people ever imprisoned. The ancient war between Imas and Jagat, it seems, has no true end, only pauses. Turning eastward, Tool begins his long journey to rejoin his kin, his every step echoing through eternity. The Bridgeburners regroup in Darujhistan's outskirts. Whiskeyjack, Quick Ben, Kalam, Fiddler, and Hedge meet with Krupa to assess their next move. The old dreamer, ever talkative, offers them sanctuary within the city, but Whiskeyjack refuses. They have become too recognizable and too dangerous to those in power. Quick Ben reveals to the group that Empress Lasine has officially branded Dujek's army as traitors, accusing them of treason to justify eliminating her most independent commanders. The Panyan Domain to the south is stirring, a new, strange threat that promises more war. The soldiers realize they will soon have to choose between hiding and fighting again. In one of the novel's most human moments, Fiddler plays a quiet tune on his fiddle amid the ruins. It is an elegy, for Tattersale, for Lorne, for all the unnamed dead. The haunting melody carries over the empty streets, a song of endings and beginnings. Before leaving, Quick Ben communes one last time with his hidden warrens, sensing the eyes of gods still upon them. He mutters a curse and a prayer in the same breath. "You've had your fun," he says to the heavens. "Now leave us be." Crokus and Apsalar meet Krupa, Murillo, and Ralik Nom for a final time. Apsalar, freed from Cotillion's possession, remains haunted by the memories of all the murders she committed while enslaved by the god. She feels like a ghost in her own skin, uncertain whether her soul is still hers. Crokus, now less a boy and more a young man, vows to help her find peace, or at least understanding. Krupa, ever the enigma, tells them cryptically that their fates lie across the seas, where other gods and other wars await. He calls Apsalar by her true name, though she does not remember telling it to him. "The gods whisper in dreams," he says with a wink, "and some dreams are loud indeed." Together, Crokus and Apsalar set out from Darujhistan, heading toward a distant horizon. Their departure mirrors the theme of the book's ending, that life, even in the shadow of immortals and monsters, must move forward. Captain Ganoes Paran, whose journey began in Pale and nearly ended in death, now stands free of the twin gods of chance, Opon. The divine coin that once bound his fate flips one final time, landing on its edge before disappearing entirely. The twins, having played their game, depart. Paran feels a sudden emptiness, but also a strange relief. For the first time since his resurrection, his choices are his own. He reflects on all he has witnessed, the corruption of empire, the futility of loyalty, and the resilience of ordinary people. In the ruins of Darujhistan, he sees both destruction and rebirth, a mirror to his own transformation. He resolves to rejoin Dujek One Arm and Whiskeyjack, fighting not for empress or crown, but for the soldiers beside him. Paran's arc, from naive noble to hardened survivor, mirrors the novel's central message, that in a world where gods gamble with human lives, the only victory lies in defying them by enduring. The last scenes return to Krupa, asleep in his cluttered room. In his dreams, he walks through an ethereal version of Darujhistan, where blue flames burn eternally and the air hums with magic. There, he meets Anomander Rake once more in conversation, though whether it is truly the Lord of Moon's spawn or a dream echo remains unclear. They speak of balance, of how mortals, through sheer stubbornness, keep the world from falling into chaos. Rake muses that perhaps even gods envy that resilience. Krupa, half asleep, responds that it is because mortals forget. Immortals never can. As dawn breaks, Krupa wakes with tears in his eyes and laughter on his lips. The play continues, he whispers to himself, and still, dear Krupa plays his part. By its end, Gardens of the Moon weaves together a tapestry of mortality, power, and consequence. The Malazan Empire, once unstoppable, is now cracking under the weight of its own ambition. The Bridgeburners stand as symbols of loyalty and disillusionment, men fighting for each other rather than for empires or gods. Rake, the immortal, embodies weariness and responsibility, proof that even immense power cannot escape guilt. Lorne and Tattersail show the human cost of obedience and sacrifice. Crokus and Apsalar represent rebirth and the hope that innocence, though scarred, can endure. Above them all, the gods play their endless games, but Erikson's narrative reminds us that mortals, in their brief, defiant lives, sometimes shape fate more profoundly than any divine hand. In the epilogue, we learn that Dujek Onarm's host, once an imperial army, has gone rogue, uniting with Anomander Rake and Caladan Brood in an uneasy alliance against the Panyan Doman to the south. The Empire brands them the outlaw host, marking the beginning of a larger war that will dominate the next novel, Deadhouse Gates. Across the sea, other gods stir, other mortals rise, the cycle continues. And somewhere, in the shadowed depths of the sword Dragnapur, countless chained souls march forever toward a gate of darkness, dragging behind them the black wagon of the world's fate. Gardens of the Moon ends not with triumph, but with endurance. Its heroes are broken, its villains ambiguous, and its gods inscrutable. The Malazan world continues beyond the final page, vast and untamed. It's every city and soldier part of an ancient struggle between order, chaos, and the fragile spark of humanity caught between. For Steven Erikson, this first book was never meant as an origin story. It is an immersion, a plunge into a world already in motion. And by the time its fires fade, we realize what the Malazan saga truly is. A chronicle not of good and evil, but of survival, of mortals who, though outmatched by gods, keep fighting anyway.
Please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more videos.